fall into. And what Zizek is talking about, and Lacan in a similar way, is this: what they are noticing is something that is at the core of the fallen world. What really is the essence of the fall. The essence of the fall is this split. So I don't know. Do you have anything to say concerning this idea of the split and the split subject, and even how the symbolic order itself is divided and split? That's something Lacan talks about.
Yeah, I think that's important to really kind of double click there, is when Adam and Eve sinned, when humanity found itself in this in transgressing the one commandment. That, let's say that didn't happen, what would the phenomenology of human experience be like? We would have a coherent understanding of ourselves, our sense of self, ourself, and our place in the world. Mm-hmm. And Lacan, early in his first and second seminar, he writes about how, animals are well fitted into their environment, right? They have limited kind of range of capacities, but they're well and coherently fitted in their environment. Human beings are not. There is an impasse. There is something that keeps human beings from being able to operate in their environment coherently, cogently, and logically. And the result of this is from the fall, which is this alienation from ultimate reality, from God, which is the real, right? I would say God is the real, in a sense. The kingdom is the real, right? And the kingdom influences our world, and it seems like a traumatic expression in our world, because our sensibilities are fallen. The way we understand the world, we think we know, and we can know things, and then we don't, and it instantiates this impasse, right? So this initial alienation is what Lacan picks up on, and the real understanding, or the kind of the modern understanding of this idea of an ego which sets itself against a world with an unconscious, really was inaugurated by Descartes, right? The cogito. Right, the cogito really inaugurated this idea of separate individual self versus an exterior world, and that was the kind of birth of the modern understanding of the unconscious. Right, I'd say that there is a logos, right, the fundamental organizing principle of reality, of truth, of the kingdom, and there is a dark logos, right. The dark logos is still this organizing principle of truth, but in a fallen world. So it's a lower resolution slice. It's an attempt to make sense of the world in a lower resolution than you would in the kingdom. So we're trying to make sense of the world with our own prideful, knowledge, being in a fallen sense. And in doing so, we never feel at home. We never feel comfortable in our own skin. We never can build society and relationships that are fulfilling, right? And we end up dying, and we lose everything that we own. This causes this increase in this anxiety, and that's felt in the subject. So I think there's a lot that is inaugurated by this idea of the fall into history, right, in this alienated split subject that we find in Lacan. And again, from Descartes, we have this idea of the cogito, the self, the ego, right? In Orthodox Christianity, we are looking for a person, which is a relationship, right? And there's an impasse there, right? The mirror stage is the phenomenology of idol worship, in a sense. So that is why it's interesting from an Orthodox perspective to look at these ideas, because it's shining a light on a mechanism that has been pretty much hidden, except for the eyes and the hearts of the saints that could understand and see how idols manifest, how the passions interact with the subject, and what that does to one's life and whatnot. So that's what we're talking about, the most kind of fundamental level, right? Subjectivity is emptiness, right? Lacan says it's the forced choice between meaning and being. In Orthodoxy, hypostasis, the person is the subject, and it's a well-knitted, coherent Trinitarian expression of the truth, right, which fits coherently. But we are in a fallen world, and we have all of these manifestations to deal with in our lives, personal lives, professional lives, in the economy, and the world as a whole. And what do we use to get a foothold? Lacan again would say that religion, and especially Catholicism, really played a key role covering over the traumatic expression of the real by this coherent system of thought, which is Christianity, which chooses meaning over being, right? But it ultimately falls short, according to Lacan, because it's still set in the imaginary kind of sense. So until there's a quilting point between the three registers, I guess that would be one way to make sense of what redemption would look like from this fallen sense. But I don't think that's right, because you have, from an Orthodox perspective, you have purification, illumination, deification, right? And in doing these three steps, one can find one's way back to the real, to the kingdom, to a sense of coherency, right? Which is done through a process. And just lastly, it's both of these systems, psychoanalysis, like orthodoxy, both of them have a theory and a praxis that necessarily are wedded together in order to understand the thing, right? If we just talk about orthodox theology without orthodox praxis, it's not, it doesn't suffice. Same thing if we talk about Lacanian theory without its practice in the clinical field and the questions that are being addressed there. I think it's important to make that kind of consonance as well.
Yeah, so much to say there. I guess I'll just start with what you were saying at the end.